Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a stack of material that really deals with what drives success and fulfillment and even innovation. And we're going to distill it down into three powerful ideas you can use right away. So our mission is pretty clear. We are diving deep into this trinity of grit, growth, and the often ignored skill of divergence.
That's exactly right. We've compiled a foundational conceptual framework that details these factors. But what makes this deep dive so rich, I think, is that we also have this phenomenal real-world narrative. So we're not just talking theory. We're using a detailed case study to show these concepts in action. It's kind of a shortcut, really, to help you integrate these ideas and move them from just awareness into actual practice.
And our sources really emphasize that these aren't just personality traits, they're trainable mindsets. So we want to see how they work together. Let's start with the engine room of commitment.
Okay, let's unpack this and start with the foundation. Grit. So when we talk about grit, the sources give us a really concise definition. It's the combination of passion and perseverance.
But the critical element here, the thing that separates it from just, trying hard, is the timeline. This commitment must be sustained over years. This is not a 6-week challenge.
Right, it's a marathon of commitment to a long-term, high-level goal.
Yeah.
And this is where all the research just backs it up completely. I mean, if you look at the studies by Angela Duckworth and others, they looked at these radically different environments. Military academies, spelling bees, even demanding fields like teaching.
All high stakes.
Totally. And grit consistently emerges as the key predictor of long-term achievement. It's just that sheer refusal to quit that matters most.
What I find genuinely surprising in the source material, though, is this counterintuitive idea that grit isn't just correlated with IQ or talent. In fact, the research suggests they can sometimes be inversely related. Why is that? That just flies in the face of what most of us assume.
Well, it's a profound insight, and the sources explain the mechanism really beautifully. When people are, naturally talented and they pick things up quickly,
Right.
They often find success early on without ever really needing to develop deep perseverance. They hit their stride right away, but then, when they encounter a truly complex challenge later in life, one where talent just isn't enough, they often lack the mental infrastructure for that sustained, difficult effort.
They haven't built the necessary calluses of failure.
Exactly. The individual who had to fight for every small step from the beginning, the one who wasn't the naturally gifted one. They're the one who has already practiced the long-term emotional and strategic commitment you need to overcome huge obstacles. Grit provides the stamina that talent alone just can't.
So if grit is the willingness to push through all that difficulty, then we absolutely have to talk about the second pillar, the growth mindset. Because you can't maintain that level of commitment without believing the effort is actually going somewhere.
That's the fuel, isn't it? The fixed mindset operates on this assumption that abilities are static. I either have it or I don't.
Yeah, you're born with it.
Right. But the growth mindset is this deep belief that dedication and hard work can fundamentally develop and expand your abilities. And again, this isn't just self-help talk. It's backed up by neuroscience.
Tell us a bit more about that scientific nugget. We're talking about more than just, feeling good about trying hard, right?
Absolutely. The research specifically shows that when you struggle with a difficult concept, when you are actively wrestling with something just beyond your grasp, you are physically causing your brain to change. That struggle strengthens neural connections. The moment of frustration or making a mistake is literally a moment of neurological growth.
I think that perspective is so incredibly powerful. It completely reframes what failure is. If struggling builds brain muscle, then a mistake isn't a sign that I should quit. It's proof I'm actively getting smarter.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
And the practical application is so immediate. It's all about how we praise and give feedback.
Yeah.
If we praise innate intelligence, you're so smart. What the child or the employee hears is that success is about a fixed trait. So when they eventually fail, they feel fundamentally flawed. The sources stress that to truly foster grit and growth, you have to praise the effort, the strategy, and the perseverance.
So instead of praising the A+, you praise the road they took to get there. Something like, I saw how you tried 3 different ways to solve that problem. That persistence is what really matters.
Precisely. You are teaching them that their agency, their dedication, and their strategic thinking is the variable they can control. And that's what sustains the effort required for those long, gritty years.
Okay, so we have the backbone, which is grit, and the sustained fuel, the growth mindset. Now let's introduce the third pillar, which our sources define as the engine of innovation, the divergent mindset. This is all about moving beyond just tactical problem solving. And embracing a much more expansive approach to questioning.
Yeah, we really need to see questioning itself as a skill and one that requires balance. Our sources draw a really clear distinction here. Most of our day is spent in convergent questioning.
The tactical stuff.
Exactly. What is the answer? Where's the file? When is the deadline? They narrow the focus onto specifics. They lead to a single correct solution.
But the truly interesting questions, the ones that lead to breakthroughs, are the divergent ones. The why, the what if, and the I wonder questions. They just explode the possibility space.
And to be clear, you need both. You can't launch a project without that convergent precision. But you won't invent the next big thing without divergent curiosity. The blend is essential.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. The sources dive into the psychology of curiosity itself, and they note that it arises specifically from an information gap. It's not about knowing nothing or knowing everything. It's knowing just enough to see the gap and want to bridge it.
That gap creates this friction, this cognitive itch that just demands to be scratched. And if you connect this to our modern economy, this is critical. Automation is getting incredibly good at solving convergent problems.
Right, computers are great at finding the one right answer.
They excel at it.
Yeah.
But human creativity, fueled by that divergent what if, that's the uniquely valuable skill that machines can't replicate. Sustainable innovation really depends on our willingness to be messy and expansive in our thinking.
So how do we actually cultivate this? I mean, practically speaking, especially if we feel locked into that problem-solving mode all day.
The sources offer a wonderful, really actionable piece of advice. Embrace the role of the clumsy student in any new area you encounter. Just drop the pressure to immediately seem competent. That attitude encourages pure observation, a real willingness to seek help, and permission to ask the simple, obvious questions.
So why is it done that way? Questions that an expert would never dare to ask.
Exactly.
I like that. It strips away the ego. It validates just being curious, even if the question seems basic. Being a clumsy student means admitting, I don't know the answer yet, which, as we just established, is the first step toward any real discovery. Okay, so we've covered the conceptual framework. Now let's bring it to life. We're shifting focus to this really powerful narrative about an interaction with a young woman named Miyuki who is learning English. And it's all about how she used these three pillars in a single life-altering moment.
This narrative provides astonishing clarity on how theory becomes reality. It starts with what the analysis called the dream and unconscious awareness. Miyuki had this long-term goal, singing in New York City.
So a very specific dream.
Very specific. And the analysis suggests this dream acted as her core passion, her latent grit. It kept her in this state of constant awareness for opportunities, leveraging her strength singing despite her communication limitations.
So a dream isn't just a fantasy, it's a strategic compass. But then comes that moment of truth, the conflict everyone faces. Overcoming fear of the unknown. She was watching this interaction from the sidelines. She could have so easily rationalized leaving. Oh, the host looks busy, or my English isn't good enough. This conversation isn't for me.
She was at a true inflection point. She could have let that fixed mindset and fear just consume her. But she overcame it by internalizing a philosophy we see in the sources. Being afraid all the time is just a waste of time. She moved past the fear, and she initiated the connection. And what did she do? The simplest, riskiest act. A simple hello. That one act was pure divergent willingness.
And that single act set everything else in motion. And the turning point is beautiful because it just demonstrates the growth mindset so perfectly, embracing the challenge with honesty. When she was invited to sing, she didn't pretend to be perfect. She was honest. She said, I try. I'm Japanese and I'm still learning English now.
That honesty was revolutionary in that moment. It was her displaying a growth mindset, admitting she was a clumsy student in that scenario. And what happened? That honesty fostered external support. The host, the surrounding group, the random enablers, they didn't push her into a situation where she would fail. They pivoted and encouraged her to sing a Japanese song, Bluebird. Her vulnerability created a safe space for her to take the plunge.
And the risk paid off in a huge way. Tell us about the actual performance, the realization of living the dream.
The sources describe a palpable transformation. The moment she launched into that first tune, her indecisiveness, her shyness, her language barrier, it all just vanished. The analysis highlights her facial expression, her body language, her passion. The tone of her voice showed she was instantaneously who she always dreamt to be.
Wow.
She was completely immersed in that long-term passion. That was her grit, right there.
She was embodying the goal she'd worked toward for years, the emotional resonance of her singing those Japanese phrases like Habara Itara, if I flap my wings.
Notorani to it off, I said I wouldn't return.
It must have been just overwhelming. She was physically manifesting the flight she'd always wanted.
And the narrative concludes with her being profoundly gracious and empowered. She was grateful, she was kind, and the analysis noted this final private gesture. She closed her fist to herself, a quiet demonstration that she had internalized her own newfound bravery. This simple interaction, captured on film, serves as this incredible lesson for all of us to be dreamers and fearless souls.
So what does this phenomenal story teach us about the framework? How do Miyuki's specific actions prove the concepts we spent the first half of this deep dive breaking down?
You can map every single step of her journey directly back to the three pillars. Her immediate response to the challenge, I try. That is the pure expression of the growth mindset. She accepted the challenge, and she viewed this potentially embarrassing situation as a necessary step, a learning opportunity.
Right, and the long-term specific dream of singing in New York, that's the anchor for her grit. That sustained passion gave her the reason to stay engaged, and then the courage to execute when the opportunity finally showed up.
Yes, demonstrating that perseverance wasn't just required over years, but in that split second when she had to say yes. And finally, her decision to approach the host, to leave the safety of the sidelines despite that acute fear, that is the ultimate expression of embracing the unknown and divergence.
She allowed herself to step outside her comfort zone and ask that what-if question just by taking action.
And her success confirmed the whole philosophy, that embracing uncertainties with curiosity leads directly to fulfillment.
It's so clear that these three concepts aren't just abstract ideas. They are the intentional actions that converge to turn deep passion into reality. Grit provides the purpose, growth provides the permission to fail and learn, and divergence provides the opportunity to start.
Indeed. We saw how Miyuki leveraged her existing talent, her singing, but it was the combination of these three elements that allowed her to seize that fleeting moment. So we've given you the conceptual shortcut, and we've given you the narrative proof. Now, for your own life, we want you to consider this provocative thought as you move forward. Of these three crucial elements, grit, growth, or the divergent willingness to ask the risky what if, which one is currently the biggest challenge for you to implement right now?
That is a question worth spending some time on. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be sure to send you the full source material for your continued reading. Until next time.